Welcome to Software Rocks. Are you looking after your roadmap? On today's show, are you looking after your product roadmap? 3 ways to getting better team engagement. And something you can start doing today to make your development better. So, what is a product roadmap? This is something I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, and something actually came up this week that I thought, now's a good time to talk about it. What does your product roadmap look like? Do you even have a product roadmap? Of all the places I've worked, when I haven't been able to get them to do it how I think they should be doing it, I don't ever think I've seen any company with a product roadmap. Now, I'm not talking about the 3-year grand strategy or the portfolio perspective or anything like that. So I'm not talking about the grand strategy the board has. I'm not talking about where the architecture team think they're going to be. What I mean is the roadmap created by the product owner specifically for the product they're on right now. And I'm talking about the roadmap they're going to be following for the next 6 months, 9 months, possibly a year at the max. That they've actually communicated to their team, got them all bought in, and everybody knows where they're going. Do you have one of those? I know currently, the place I'm working at, does not have one of those, and this is the next discussion I need to have with them. But I'm willing to bet the company you work for doesn't have one either. So, as I say, I've been thinking about this topic for a while, and I think it's a really fundamental piece that a lot of software companies, well, not even software companies, a lot of companies who do development simply miss. They don't ever consider, how do we communicate our vision to everyone, not just the few people who happen to know the software developer, who happen to know the product owner and a few bits and pieces like that, if the product owner has even considered this. Now, I was sitting there this week and I came across Roman Pilcher's article. Actually, it's a set of slideshows, and I'll link it in the show notes, on the Agile Product Roadmap. It's a fantastic slideshow, and I'm actually trying to, fingers crossed, talk to him and actually possibly even get an interview with him. And basically what he's saying is this concept of, you need a product roadmap. It's not the portfolio, it's not the strategy, it's purely a piece that sits below that says, I know where we're going, and this is the vision for this product. It's a piece of work that is created as a team, as a collective. So what you're trying to do is create buy-in. So what do you have now? If you've got one of these, fantastic. Skip ahead for a minute. So if you've got one of these, fantastic. You're obviously on top of your game. Brilliant. You know exactly where you're going. You've worked all this stuff out. Fantastic. So what's the most common answer I get when I ask people this? What do you actually have? The most common answer is, what are you talking about? We don't have anything like that. So what do they have? What is the most common thing out there? So what most places have is a big long list of epics. The product owner will sit down and go, right, here we go. Let's get started. Look, I've got a massive list of epics. Then you get this whole, I'm going to have another separate episode which is purely about planning. How the hell do you sit down with a business owner and the product owner and say, right, what do you want done? Fantastic, let's get going on this. Sitting down with a list of epics is not getting started with software development, not by a long way. Although you wouldn't believe that if you speak to a lot of people. So you sit down and you go, so where's your product roadmap? Well, we have a list of epics. No. We've broken these down into stories. No. Can we start dishing these out to developers? No, you haven't given me your vision. You haven't told me what you want to do. So how is the development team or the testing team or any of the other teams that are involved in this going to be able to have a meaningful conversation with you about what it is we're doing if they don't have a clear vision of where you want to get to in the end and what are the steps we're going to go through to get there? Ultimately, this is going to have an effect on not only what they think they're doing, what the information they can provide you, but ultimately you're going to start affecting the passion they have for your project. Simply because you haven't told them where it is you're going, they don't know how these pieces slot together. They're not going to know what they have to do to help you out, basically. And then this is the thing. Development teams, testing teams, all these other people, they want to help you. They want to succeed. They want to be part of a good project. They want to do excellent work, and they can't do that if you've already hobbled them before you begin. So, okay, let's imagine you go, well, actually, we have a roadmap. Oh, excellent. Is it a product roadmap? No. This is the second most common one I hear is, we've got a company roadmap. Is that right? Well, yes, okay, fantastic. Company roadmap. That's probably more of a strategy document. That's probably more of a portfolio piece. That's saying over the next year, over the next 2 years, we're planning to have these bits and pieces in place. It's normally given to you by the board, or at least a group of senior people, probably unrelated to the project you're on. And no doubt it will help you. It will definitely guide you to where you want to be going. But the problem is, this is incredibly high level. This is the broad vision. I would personally argue that there's no real leadership in that. There's no true vision in that. That's a very pie in the sky sort of idea. That's well, let's be honest. That's probably marketing saying, well, by the end of the year we need to have these bits and pieces in place, and then we'll have this and that, and we'll be fantastic. Absolutely, there's absolutely a place for that, and that's an incredibly important piece, especially if you've got a very visionary leader who has some fantastic long-term ideas. Again, vision, charismatic leadership, topics that I'm going to go into at some point in the future, absolutely essential for doing software development, especially when it's a long project and it's a hard slog. But I'm not talking about that right now. What I'm trying to talk about here is, yes, you can have that big vision document, but you still need a product vision. You still need to bring this down to the piece of work people are actually working on right now and help them visualize what this is going to look like in a month's time, what it's going to look like in 3 months' time, half a year, a year's time. Simply because they need that vision. They need to understand where they're going. It's hard to be passionate. It's hard to care about a product that you can't see being finished at some point in the future. Ultimately, this stuff is all about shipping. You've got to get it out. And I think there's another problem here that people don't talk about with these things is, if it's never updated, that shows to everybody involved nobody really cares. What that's saying to me is, yeah, we had an idea ages ago, but we're not going to keep it up to date. So today, I want to talk to you about actually getting a proper roadmap for your product in place that everybody is bought into, everybody understands, and they can all work from it. I'm going to link to Roman's slideshow because I think he's done a fantastic job of actually laying out a really simple document that you can fill in with the product owner and potentially other product owners and use it as a discussion point for what you want to do. I really enjoyed reading it. I think it's fantastic. So what are the reasons for having a roadmap? First of all, it's about having a plan. It's useful when you talk to the board. When you actually go to the board to explain to them, well, what are you doing? What's the plan for the next 6 months? You can pull out your roadmap and say, right, here's your portfolio, here's your strategy documents. This is where I know you want to go in the next year. Here is my roadmap for this one product on how to get there. Let's say you split your roadmap up into 4 quarters. Here are the goals. Here are the bits and pieces of work that I'm going to do each quarter for the next 4 quarters to get you to the end. So the board will love you for that. The board will think you're fantastic. You've shown them that you understand their strategy and you are working towards that strategy. And these are steps you're going to follow. You're giving them something that they can really understand and work with. It's also useful for talking to other people outside of your project. You can very clearly show to all your stakeholders, these are the steps I am going to go through. These are the pieces of work that I'm going to do to get to wherever it is that they want you to get to. Maybe some of them won't have any work involved in that for the first 6 months. Maybe some of them won't be involved at all. Maybe some of them involved every step of the way. You are being very explicit about just what it is you're going to do. And that's the last point as well. It's all about keeping you straight. It's all about keeping everybody else in the team very clear on what the next step is. So let's imagine you've got a big project and you know some sort of crazy payment system is going to be in there. You can clearly say on your roadmap, yes, that's going to be dealt with, but not till the 3rd quarter. We're not going to touch that for 6 months. Everybody knows that it's coming, but it's being dealt with at some point later. So this is all going to help you with your prioritization. You know the big pieces that are going to come in your product, and now you know when they're going to come in your product. Your developers and testers are not going to spend their time looking at and working on pieces that are not going to come for 6 months. It's just a waste of their time. And now they know it. Now you've been incredibly clear in your communications Yes, it's coming. Yes, we're going to talk about it. But no, I don't want you to touch it for 6 months. That's going to save enormous amounts of time. For you, for the developers, for the testers, for everyone. But I think much more important than that, you are giving everyone a very clear idea of the bigger picture. You have laid out all the building blocks. You are saying to them, this is where we're going to go. This is how we're going to get there. This is where we stand right now. And so you have given them a purpose. You have let them know, this is where we're going. This is what's going on. You are standing here. Let's go for this thing. Everyone knows now you've got this thing laid out. Everyone knows, where do we stand right now? What have we got? What are the most important things I need to be thinking about right now? And what do I need to be thinking about for the next 3 months, next 6 months? So if you've done all that, you've given the team a reason and a purpose to really want to be involved in what you're doing. And they must be involved. They've got to be involved in it because they're going to be building it for the next 6 months. You've got them involved, and so you've given them a sense of ownership of it. Once you've given them a sense of ownership of this thing, they're going to go off on their own. They're going to be able to look after this thing and want to make it work. And that's exactly where you want to get to. You want to get everybody involved, having this sense of ownership over the work, because it's important to them just as it is important to you. So how are we going to define one of these things? What does this thing actually look like? What's it got in it? This is what I really enjoyed about Roman's approach. It's actually relatively straightforward. It is fairly simple. And again, because it's simple, you can customize it up as much as you would need to. But the core concept contains only a very few number of pieces that are very easy to understand. So let's imagine you're going to split the year up into 4 quarters. Each quarter needs to contain a few bits and pieces. So the first thing is you set the dates for the plan. You say, right, this is going to be quarter 1. These are not hard and fast dates. This is only a roadmap. This is only to guide you to where you're going. And again, I want to have a whole talk on estimating and how to make sure you don't commit yourself to things you shouldn't be committing to, and the problems you have with actually saying dates to people and when you should and shouldn't do it. That's for later discussion. But what we're trying to do here is give to the developers and the testers and anyone else involved a very clear idea of this is where we're aiming to get to in the next month, the next 2 months, the next 3 months. This is the focus for the next quarter. And so that gives the development teams a really good idea of the tempo, the pace of how often you actually want these major releases to be going out. Now, you could become really clever and split the roadmap down so you can say, well, here's the quarter vision and here's the month-by-month vision. I would hesitate from going too far down that road. It totally depends on the teams you're working with. Some teams will really like that. Some teams will feel that you're holding their hand and mothering them too much. Depends who they are. But anyway, set dates. Have a clear idea of where you want to get to on a certain timescale. So name each step. This is an important piece. Maybe it's a really simple name. Maybe it's going to say version 1, version 2, version 3. But again, be incredibly clear. Say, when we're talking about this piece of work, we're going to call this version 1, or we're going to call this version 0.5. One of the problems I've got at the minute in the place I'm working is they seem to create names for different bits and pieces completely at random, and they change the names at random. So I'll be talking to someone saying, are you working on 3.6? And they go, what, 3.6.1 or 3.6.2? Well, hold on. It was 3.6 this morning. Where did this 0.1 come from? Oh, they decided to change the name for it. Don't do that. It just becomes incredibly confusing. Pick a name, stick with it. Maybe it's version 1. Maybe you'll come up with a funky code name for it. However you want to do it, it doesn't matter. Just pick a name and stick with it. Set the goal. Define the goal for this step. So this is going to guide the next piece of work that you do. But the important thing is what you're going to say is this defines the goal for this next step on the roadmap. Now, that might just be getting the first version of the product out in the App Store. It might be getting onto a specific list or listing that you want to get onto. It might just be getting your first customers, or it might be getting a specific number of customers. Whatever your goal is, write it down, because this is going to inform the other pieces of work you do. And more importantly, it's going to inform the developers and testers and anyone else involved what it is you're trying to aim for. And then they're going to give you feedback at some point later and say, well, if you want to hit this goal, we don't need to do this. We can do it this way, or we can add these bits and pieces in. You're going to get much better feedback and buy-in from everyone because they know what it is you're aiming for, rather than just trying to assume that you've got it right and just go with that. So once you've set that goal, define the features you want to include in that release. And now you've set your goal, you have something to measure your goals against. You can say, do I need this one? Does this allow me to hit my first goal? Let's say your first goal is just getting it out. So you're aiming for your minimum viable product. You've now got something to evaluate all your features against and say, does this meet? Do I need to have this to be a minimum viable product? And again, not just you've been very clear with everyone. So someone else may look at it and go, you don't need this for a minimum viable product, or you're missing these pieces. Where's this? You've got to have this for your MVP. Again, these are things that you don't see people doing often. When you think about it for a minute, it makes no sense that they haven't clearly defined this stuff. This guides you. This defines everything you're going to be doing. And the last step is metrics. What are you going to measure to know that you've hit your goal? How do you know that this piece of your roadmap was a success? Maybe it's you want to get X number of users signed up, or maybe it's you want to get into the top 10 list on a specific category in the App Store, or maybe you want so much money going through the application the first X amount of time. Whatever it is, define those metrics and put them down on a piece of paper. Now, I know this can be scary for some, actually taking that much responsibility, saying this is exactly what we're going to hit. But what you've got to think about is you are explaining to all the teams, this is what we're aiming for. This is what it's going to be called. This is its goal, and this is what we want to hit. Now, maybe they can affect this stuff directly. Maybe it's a specific performance metric that you want to hit. Maybe they can't affect it directly, i.e. the number of customers that need to get in through the application. But whatever it is, define it, because you need to know that you actually got there, and the team needs to know they're working towards a specific purpose. Who has their say in this document? Well, simply put, everyone has their say in this document. I would suggest that the product owner and potentially Scrum Master and whoever at least put together an initial version, just their thoughts. Run that past the other stakeholders, explain what you're trying to do. They'll have their own view, incorporate that view. Sometimes you're going to have to say no. Sometimes you're going to have fights with them and say, look, you can't, we're trying to hit a specific thing here. This thing you're asking for, that has to come in 6 months' time, or that has to come in the next one. And they're going to have points of view, and those points of view are going to be valid. But you need to hit those points of view head on and be very, very clear about what it is you're going to be doing. You need to take away all that pain from the development team and the testing team, and take away any pain you may have from that in 3 months' time when you actually start to deliver this stuff and someone says to you, oh, but I thought we said you were going to have this thing. No. Remember the discussion we had? We kicked it out there and then we're not having this again. Not that I've done that a few times, you understand. I hope there's no bitterness in my voice on that one. You've created a rough plan. You've shown it to the stakeholders. They've had a say. It's all gone round the houses on that one. Show it to your development team. Show it to your testing team. Get their buy-in. Get their feedback, because they're ultimately the people who are going to build this thing. They are going to have the best feedback you can possibly have. They're going to explain to you, no, you can't do these things yet. They have to come later. Yes, these things can happen. You don't need to do these things. What happened to these things? What are we missing? Once you've got all that in place, you've got fantastic buy-in from all of the people who are involved in this, and you've been incredibly clear, probably clearer than anyone you've ever worked with, about what it is you're going to hit in the next 3 months, why you're going to hit it, what you want it to include, and how you're going to measure you actually did what you wanted to do after it. Then you solicited all this feedback. If you've done all that, you are leaps and bounds ahead of most software development that happens out there. So I hope that makes a lot of sense. I hope I've made it very clear why you need to be working on this roadmap and be continuously updating it as well. This is not a static document that someone did 6 months ago and never looked at again. This is a document that you need to be working on month, updating as you go, refining your plan, because things change, ideas change, people change. You need to be reacting to that. This is an agile process, just like the development is agile. This thing needs to be evolving all the time. So what are some of the benefits we can get from that? You've created a very clear vision for everyone. Once you've got this written, everyone involved in the company now has a very clear vision about what your product is going to be doing. The board understand where it is you're going and how it meets up with their objectives. Your other stakeholders have been involved. They understand what you've done, why you're doing it, where you're going to be at what time, and what's going to happen next. And all your developers and testers, they understand what it is they're working on, where it's going to, and what their focus needs to be for the next 6 months. So because of that, they're all going to be bought into this idea. They know just what's going on, and so they're going to work their hardest to make sure that you meet your goals, because your goals are going to be their goals. Everyone now has this common understanding, not just the developers and testers who are working on it, but the other stakeholders as well, and everyone else involved in the project knows that, yes, in a year's time, this is going to be the most ultimate bit of software, but for the next 3 months, we are only focused on X, Y, and Z. Nothing else matters. That cuts out a lot of distractions, it cuts down a lot of wasted time as people just don't work on things they shouldn't be working on. Everyone knows it's going to come, and developers will take care of leaving gaps in your application so that things can be slotted in later, but they need to know what the focus is right now. And finally, you've gained the ability to clearly articulate what's happening now and what's happening next. And I'm not talking on a week-by-week basis, because week-by-week is fairly useful, but not so useful. But I'm talking about on a month-by-month and quarter-by-quarter basis. This is what we're doing now. This is what we're going to be doing next. There it is, black and white, up on the wall. Everyone can see it. No discussion. That's something just so many places don't have, and it makes no sense. Get on top of that. Have your product roadmap. Make it incredibly clear, and get buy-in from everyone. 3 ways to start getting your team more engaged. Number 1, make sure the business is engaged. The software developers and the testers don't drive the product or project. They're not in control. The business is in control. So the business needs to show that not only are they engaged and they're working on this, they are actively trying to help everyone do a better job. If the business show that they don't care, why should the software developers or the testers care? Basically, the software developers and the testers are doing a lot of the work, and I'm not saying the business is not doing a lot of work. Obviously they are, but the software developers and the testers are on the ground actually doing all the hard slog to actually get this thing out there. The business needs to be backing them up and understand that they're working hard and prove that they're working just as hard on other bits and pieces. Number 2, hold regular demos and use the information from them. If your development team are working in an agile fashion, which I hope they are, then every 2 weeks they're going to have a demo. It's massively important that the product owner and any of the core stakeholders actually attend that meeting. It's not good enough for the product owners to say, well, I'm busy, I can't come to this one. This is your product, not the software developer's product. You need to be there to see where it's going. And it's not really acceptable that you just can't be bothered with it. It's yours. You're responsible. What I can't accept is a product owner who turns up at the end of the project and says, well, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I asked for. Well, you had your chance to have that conversation. You saw the demos as it went through. The development team and testing teams asked for your feedback. That's when you had your chance to change it, not at the end. So have those demos, have those reviews. Ask for honest feedback from the development team and testing team and listen to what they say. And you give your honest feedback as well. Development teams and testing teams are not made of glass. They want to hear your opinion, and they want to know if you're not happy, and they want to know it early, because the earlier you tell them, the more they can do to fix those problems and work on them. And number 3, take ownership of the project. Again, I'm hoping that what I've shown here is the importance of a roadmap. The reason that's important is because it shows you're owning the project. Ultimately, the product owner is responsible, and so they need to take hold of that responsibility and own it for themselves. They need to understand that this is theirs and they shape it. Now, this goes further up the tree as well. This goes to the board. Make sure that you've empowered your product owner. They are responsible. If you make them responsible and you put your trust in them, I guarantee that they will do a much better job. But in order to do that, you do have to empower them. If you're owning this project, plan it out. Actually talk to the teams, lay out your vision, make sure it's clear, make sure they understand what you want and when you want it. And again, this is where the roadmap comes in. If you've got that vision, if you're clear and articulate, if you can communicate it especially if you can communicate it with passion, you will get buy-in from all these teams. Not everyone's going to agree with you. That's never going to happen. And that's actually a good thing. They don't have to work with you. Give them the option to not work with you. If they're going to be a problem, you only want to be working with people who are going to support your vision and push it forward. If you can get that, everyone will be engaged and you will turn out a much better product. Finally, something you can do today to start improving your development. And I think we all know what it is I'm going to say. Get working on your roadmap. There is no excuse for this. Your roadmap tells your development teams what is coming, what needs to be done, where you stand. There is no excuse for not having a roadmap ready. And it's not just one roadmap. It's a roadmap for each of your products that you're working on. There's a whole ton of bits and pieces I can talk about portfolio planning and how you can merge all these together further up the tree. Regardless of that, this is all about clearly communicating with the people you work with what you're doing next and where you're going in the next year. I hope all the bits and pieces I've talked about have convinced you of the importance of that. Start working on yours today. Get it out there. Get it in front of everybody. Get feedback. Get engagement. Get everybody bought into it. Start out with a rough concept. Perhaps your thinking is not the thinking of the development teams, and if you don't articulate it and put it in front of them, they can't say to you, well, actually, you can't have that in 6 months. That's going to take at least a year to do. Yeah, that's probably not the information you want to hear, but it's probably also the truth. So you need to know it now, understand it, and start working on it. Do all these bits and pieces, and I can pretty much guarantee you will have a much better product and probably a faster developed and better tested product, simply because you communicated early what it is you wanted to do. No excuses. Get on that now. Thank you for listening to Software Rocks. I hope you found it informative. I know I'm finding it enjoyable. If you want the show notes for this episode, go to softwarerocks.tv/3. Don't forget, if you enjoyed it, please leave us a review and some comments on whatever platform it is you're on, be it iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, whatever it is. It helps me understand what it is you like. It helps other people see that we're doing good work, and it just helps get the message out there. I really appreciate it. If you want to get in touch, ask a question, or just have something to say, email me, andrew@softwarerocks.tv, or you can join the Facebook group, or you can sign up for the newsletter. I'm working on various bits of content that only go out to people in the newsletter, so sign up for that. Finally, you can follow me on Twitter @AndrewBinstead. I've got some really exciting bits and pieces coming up in the future. I've got lots of ideas for topics that I'm working on, as you can already hear, estimating, portfolio planning, all sorts of bits and pieces. But I'm also trying to arrange a number of interviews with various people. I've got some fantastic, fascinating people from all over the world who have just gone through this before. They've gone through these bits and pieces, and they've got some really interesting and different ideas about how you should be approaching this stuff. I'm really looking forward to talking to them. I hope you're looking forward to listening to them. Thanks for listening. I hope your development just got a little bit better. Three ways to start. No, I'm going to start again. 3 ways to get started. Am I getting an echo? Is there an echo? Ugh, sounds like an echo. That's all I need. Start paying for a bloody recording booth. Bloody hell. Right, here we go. What's coming up next? What are the most important things that I need to be focused? Start showing it. Not start showing it. They're going to be it's incredibly important. But much more important than I. If you want the show notes,